welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. To everyone that's done so, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe to my channel because it's lit up in here. Like, why haven't you subscribed yet to this day? Anyway, please hit the notification bell just so you're notified of any videos that I may upload. And today's video, as you can tell from the title, is going to be a story time. It's my first ever story time, so I'm really excited to be recording this. For the male audience, you've complained and said please balance out your videos. So yes, I will try to make sure my content is for the male audience as well, okay? But before we get into the video, you know your girl gotta promote her business. So please, if you've not visited my natural hair page yet, if you've not visited my wig page yet, they're linked in the description down below. I'm gonna insert my latest work here and here. If you visit any of these pages and you like anything you see, unfortunately this only applies if you're in Zambia or Botswana. So if you like anything that you see, please don't hesitate to contact me and I can be able to offer you a service. Okay, so let me get right to the video. This video is gonna be about how we were robbed, mugged and conned all in one day in broad daylight. And this was, I should say, I'm gonna do the math real quick, about 11 years ago. This was about 11 years ago. I was 15 years old. And no, I was 14 years old. This is because I hadn't gone to senior high yet, so I was 14 years old. And I'm not gonna mention any names in this video just so that people who know the story can't like know who exactly I'm talking about or what exactly I'm talking about. But if you do piece everything together, yeah, you'll know it. There was a cousin of mine. For the sake of this video, she my cousin. So there was a cousin of mine and we were sent, and this was the time we're living in Botswana. So we were sent to go deposit some money in the bank. And you know, it just started out as an ordinary day. We get on a combi, we go to a combi is like a minibus. So we get on a combi, we go to Game City. Was it Game City? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we went to Game City and that's where we're supposed to deposit the money. I don't remember what bank it was, and honestly that ain't relevant right now. So yeah, we get on a bus, go to Game City, and then when we get to Game City, as we're walking, we meet this guy and he's dressed in some shorts and he's just regularly dressed, honestly. And I guess we were a little too young to notice any red flags, which we should have noticed. But we didn't. So he approached us. He's like, hi, and at first we just ignored him, like, sir, what do you want from us, you know what I mean? And then as we were walking, he keeps walking with us and he goes like, oh, you girls are really pretty. Like, thanks. We just keep walking, and then he goes like, so I work with a modeling agency. I really feel like you girls would be a perfect fit for that agency. You guys have the right heights and nice bodies and all that kind. This is not a human trafficking story. I know I'm telling it like it is, but it's not, okay? So he was just giving us these compliments and telling us how beautiful we look and everything like that. And honestly, maybe my cousin was beautiful, but I was awkward looking, so I don't know what he was talking about. But yeah, we were these bony young teenage girls. This actually interested my cousin more than it did me, because I don't know, she just loved this whole modeling world thing. So she stopped for a while, and she was older, so I was just following suit. I'm just like, okay, let's listen, what you got? And then he was like, we're advertising this brand. I'm not gonna say the brand, but yeah, it was quite common at the time. We're looking for some girls that can actually model the brands. You get to keep all the merchandise, you get to keep all the clothes after we're done with all this. And it seemed like a fair deal because those were, they were decent kind of clothing. It's not like we were gonna be, naked or half naked or our bodies exposed trying to advertise those brands. Everything that I had seen in that clothing line seemed pretty decent, so I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. So the first thing I did, I whipped up my phone because I was so excited. So the first thing I did was call my dad, because every time when something like that happens, just in case, you know, your dad might see you in a magazine with this branded clothes. He better have a background story. So I called my dad. I was trying to reach him to tell him what was about to happen. He wasn't picking up, so I guess he was busy. He was busy working or something. I tried calling him and calling him and calling him, and then in the end I was just like, yeah, I think we'll just go ahead with it. I'll tell him, you know, when it's done, like after it's done. With my cousin, I almost said her name, but I ain't gonna say it. So with my cousin, she goes like, yeah, when you tell your dad, he's gonna tell my dad, so it's gonna be cool. So we told him we have to run an errand first. We have to go to the bank. We didn't say that we're going to deposit some money. We just said we're going to the bank. So as we're walking to the bank, he's walking with us, and he asks us, so what are you going to do at the bank? And my cousin goes like, to deposit some money. And I'm like, I don't think we should be telling a stranger this. He did say like, okay, I've got about 15 minutes to like look for people, so if in 15 minutes you're not done, I'll have to find other people. And he was a crafty guy, because, you know, he put that urgency in us, like, you know, we have to finish in 15 minutes so that we can go, you know. So we get into the bank, and there were queues. Obviously it's a bank, so there were queues, and this should have been our second red flag, because 15 minutes had passed. It was almost into like 45 minutes of us being in the bank. When 30 minutes had passed, he had walked into the bank, and he just kept doing like, yo, you know. And then we're like, yeah, we're coming. I mean, we told you we're doing something, you know. I actually just remembered, we were not depositing money, we were actually withdrawing money. 45 minutes to an hour later, he's still here. And I said, didn't this guy say he has 15 minutes, and in 15 minutes time he's gonna go find other people? So what is he still doing here? But then, you know, I don't know. I think I wasn't so woke. You know, 14-year-olds these days are so woke. They're so smart. And I don't know if it's because it's a generational thing or it's because of advancement in technology, but 14-year-olds these days are so smart. But I wasn't that 14-year-old. I was book smart. I was really, really smart in school, but I don't know. My street smarts were just not there. We finally got done with what we were doing in the bank, and we started walking with this guy, and then we meet his friend and the other guy. So the other guy goes like, oh, you've actually managed to find people? I haven't managed to find anyone. And he's like, I guess these guys will do. They start walking with us, and there's, if you're familiar with Gaborone, that's in Botswana, there is a Commerce Park just opposite Game City, if I'm not mistaken, but somewhere around the Commerce Park. So he goes like, yeah, so the auditions are going to be held in Commerce Park. So we were like, okay, cool, no problem. And then we start walking towards Commerce Park, and at this point I'm a bit anxious. You know, the thought of, you know, this thing not actually being what it is does creep in. So you are making sure that where you're going, there are no enclosed areas, like it's an open space, and you're just like, okay, this is Commerce Park, people in their offices, everybody's working, so definitely nothing can happen to you in Commerce Park. And Commerce Park just seems like, you know, just seems like a safe place to be. So we were walking with these people, and they were just asking us questions, and then they kept telling us, so you need to declare all your valuables, because we're working with, they just mentioned that they're foreigners. We're working with foreigners, so they're a bit curious, and they're a bit skeptical about people that we bring, because last time we brought some people, they actually went away with everything that we owned. They stole some camera equipment, they stole some of the merchandise, and yeah, so that you have to declare everything that you have, and then it'll be given back to you when it's time for you to go home. And we were like, oh, okay. We get to a place, it looked like it's a place where, like, you know, it had like these concrete tables and benches where people could go sit and eat their lunch. That's where we went, and he told us to have a seat there. And then the other guy sat opposite us, and then he goes like, what do you guys have? And then at the time I had a flip phone. I don't know what that phone is called. It was a Nokia. I'm gonna look for that phone. Like, if I do find it, I'm gonna insert it somewhere here. But it was a Nokia phone, and it was a flip phone. And you know, it was during those times when you would have like Chris Brown and Jordan Sparks, No Air, or you'd have Chris Brown, I Need You. What's the song? With You, and Sierra, My Goodies. Those days, you know, those days. So it was those kind of phones. There was a flip phone, and at the time they were not so common. So I used to just, you know, I'd be there with my flip phone, and I'd be feeling myself, you know. So I'd even move around with it, and you know, with the flap would be like outside my pocket with my headsets on. So yeah, and it had like my name, my initials bedazzled at the back in pink. It was that real. So so they asked like, what do we have? My cousin at the time didn't have a phone, or she did have a phone, but it wasn't like anything fancy at the time. So I was like, oh, I have this phone. I was like, oh, I have my phone too. And then she was like, oh, and there's this money I'm just from withdrawing, 2,600 kwacha. Yeah, no, pula, 2,600 pula. This was also around like Christmas period, like festive period. And because we were not so woke, and because we never moved around at that time, we were not so aware of the fact that a lot of illegal activities usually took place at that time. The other guy said, I'm gonna sit with you here. We showed him everything that we had. Like, we had our passports, we had everything. We showed him everything that we had, and then he was like, okay, you can keep the passports because those are kind of personal, and it's not like you'd steal someone else's passport because you already have your own. And then the other guy goes like, so you wait right here. I'm just walking into that office right there. He got the money. I was so like skeptical when she was the one handling the money, so I was so skeptical. I was like, should we? And I was like, anyway, she's the older one, so let's just do this. I was like, are you sure? And it was already happening. So he was like, yeah, he's just going in that office. I'm like, okay. So the guy starts walking towards the office to go declare the things that we had. And then we sat there for about 10-15 minutes, and the other guy who was with him goes like, what's taking this guy so long? It usually doesn't take such so long. And then we're also sitting there wondering. So he goes like, I'm gonna just see what's up. I'm gonna see what's going on. He also gets up, and it didn't even take 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, something's shady going down. Something is wrong. Like, I just can't shake off this feeling. Something is off. I forgot to mention, so he had gone with the money, 2,600 pula, and then he had also gone with my phone. And what else did he take? Oh, and then our transport money as well, because we had some money in our pockets that we were going to use as transport to go back home. So he had taken that as well. All he left us was my cousin's phone. Almost said her name again. My cousin's phone and our passports. So then the other guy goes, and literally 5 minutes later, I'm like, I can't do this. We're following these guys. So I walked to the other corner, and literally says there were no officers behind. So I'm like, which offices did they go in? But then when we looked to the side, there was like a corridor that had like some offices. So we walked in there. We presumed that's where they went. When we walked in, we found two ladies sitting in there, and we described the guys. Have you seen these guys who look like this? And they were like, do you mean those guys that like literally ran past this corner? Like, when they got here, they just ran like someone was chasing them. And I'm like, what? And at that moment, we were like, excuse me, what? And then we get into panic mode. Like, okay, it got real. Like, okay, so they've actually run away with all that money. We then start to panic. My cousin doesn't have any airtime in her phone, and back then there was no provision to like borrow airtime or whatever, so you couldn't do that. And then we had to go back to Game City, and we explained the story to some lady who sells airtime, and she actually borrowed us her phone so we can call our parents. My dad still wasn't picking up, so he was busy, and I think coincidentally my dad and her dad were together, so I ended up calling my older brother, and then I had to explain the story to him, and then he had to come and pick us up. But while he was picking us up, we had to call the police, and then the police took us to the police station. They had to take down some statements, and so we had to write down everything that had happened. My brother then took us home, and when we got home, we found everybody waiting for us. We found our dads waiting for us. We found everybody, and everybody was just like, what is wrong with you children? Like, they really yelled at us. Like, nobody felt pity, and nobody even like feared for the fact that our lives could have been at stake. You know what I mean? But yeah, that may have been one of the dumbest things that I have ever gone through or I have ever experienced, because all these red flags were like ringing in my head, and I just chose to ignore them. And it just felt so bad, when you're a kid and you just let grown-ups down, you let the adults down. The police system is a bit weak, but I can't really say, they had to really push. Those are like sort of petty crimes. I think there were bigger crimes that they had to solve at the time, but I would have to applaud one of the officers who was on the case. He would call on my brother's number asking to speak to me, and he would just call on my dad's number, actually he'd call to find out if I had my SIM replaced,